Two, and go. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Your Coach podcast. We're back with a very special guest. Charlotte Brookes is here. Charlotte is probably one of the most important people in Canadian road running. And we're going to talk to her and find out why. If you don't know her, you've probably benefited from her expertise in some way, regardless if you've run a road race in Canada at any point, I would say. So, Charlotte, welcome.
Thanks, John. That was a very nice introduction. I feel nervous now.
Pressure's on. So, can you just start? Maybe tell us what your title actually is, what you actually do in the running world.
Yeah, of course. I was actually joking with someone the other day about titles and like not really sure what mine is. But as it stands right now, I'm the National Event Director for the Canada Running Series. And what that really means is I oversee all of our events, and our team, so our full-time staff. And then I have a large focus on all of our emergency preparedness, our police, road permitting, all of road closures, all that fun stuff, to make sure it's safe for people to do our races as well as fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what are these races? Can you name the races that you're
Yeah. So
overseeing?
we have up until last year, we had the half marathon in Montreal, which the Montreal Marathon folks have taken over now. So as of 2025, we have events in Toronto and Vancouver. So we have the spring runoff in High Park in April. We've got the Under Armour Toronto 10K, which is in June, again in Toronto on the lakeshore. We just had our zoo run last weekend. We have our Vancouver East Side 10K this weekend. So it's in East Van, in Vancouver there. And we have our marathon. The TCS Toronto Waterfront Marathon is our grand finale in October.
Nice, yeah, and those, I mean, people would recognize those races, I think, as being some of the premier races in Canada. For sure, the Toronto Waterfront Marathon is kind of, the big one, I guess, probably. Maybe the Ottawa Marathon people would quibble, but I think between those
We
two,
do also produce races. So
yeah.
that's something new post-pandemic that we're hired by other companies to put on road races for them. So the Sporting Life 10K, which I'm sure a lot of people know about, and the upcoming Seawees, Lululemon
Uh,
Seawees in Vancouver, coming back in 2026. We'll be doing the
nice.
option for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into this? I have it in my notes. I remember because we talked about this, like you're sort of counting pins in the Runner's Choice store, and you and I met like almost like at the very when you were young and I
Yeah.
was young, and we came into the store and you were there, and that's the first
Way
time
back
that
in the
we
day.
met. But like, so
Yeah.
tell us the story, and like, because obviously, this has been going on for a while. It's a bit of a family business.
Yeah. So my dad started, so my dad was a prof at the University of Guelph. My mom actually got him into running. He became very passionate about running, to say the least. Opened up his Runner's Choice store in Guelph, left his tenured job at the University of Guelph behind, after a few years once things kind of settled a little bit more. And he opened up a couple stores in Toronto. And so from there, we moved to Toronto, and he just, I was being dragged to races from baby onwards, right? Whether they were running it or he was trying to, like, I have an adorable photo of me maybe just walking, and he's like propped me in front of all the shoes that he's trying to sell at some race. I'm like, well, that's a good ploy, right? To get people in. Well, I got a baby to feed, like, buy these running shoes. Um, anyway, so it was always part of my life, but to your point, like, I I really got into it, I guess, in my undergrad. So I had gone out to Concordia. And from there, I helped our race director in Montreal, Francois, with our half marathon there in April. And I really loved it. And so from kind of diapers to that point, I had always gone, worked the races, but handed out bibs, whatever it was, put safety pins together. And this was the first opportunity I had to do more behind the scenes stuff, ordering the bagels and bananas and coordinating the volunteers and stuff like that. And so when I moved back to Toronto after 2 years, I transferred over to York. I started working in the office part-time in Toronto, and then someone left. And so I kind of pitched my dad to hire me full-time while trying to finish my undergrad. Um, and the rest was history, I guess. I was
So
very
what
stressed.
was the first job like that he hired you for there? That's this first sort of
Yeah,
full-time
so
position.
it was all of our registration, packet pickup, volunteers, and customer service. That was basically what I started with. So it was a lot of the people stuff. I kind of, that kind of ground up. I would get so many emails. I just remember that and phone calls and um back in the day we actually got phone calls, customer service phone calls all the time. And I'm ordering the bibs and the timing chips and getting all that coordinated and then the expo, like making sure all of, packet pickup, all that bib stuff, collection, race kit stuffing, your flyers and bibs, those things were where I started. Yeah.
And then from there, you sort of progressed up to where you are now. What are some of the other roles that you've done?
Yeah, yeah, I think, at some point or another, I've touched most things with the company, which is nice, like to get a better understanding of what we're bringing people in to do. But yeah, things kind of evolved. I think it was around 2009 at the marathon. We had a volunteer coordinator that came in for a small contract, and she kind of let me know a week before. So she was reporting to somebody else in the company, not me. I just need that for the record, but we had become friends. And so she confessed to me that she had not recruited the volunteer numbers we needed.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was like, well, this is a big problem. And, I'm at the expo all week getting all the bibs and all the things ready. And so I basically talked to her and figured out some kind of plan for race day. So for me, back in that day, my job would basically be done on race day because everyone's picked up their bibs and, people are moving. Anyways, and so I ended up like jumping on a school bus at Nathan Phillips Square, gathering as many people as I could from Nathan Phillips Square so I could move them to all the holes that she told me were on course. And from there, it was just this wild experience. And so I like at one point like had to pull the bus over. I'm on like a sidewalk in downtown Toronto with the map of the route
Yeah.
on my radio, just like back and forth to all of our zone directors,
Yeah.
being like, you move this person here. Do you have this? I've just sent a cab to that location. Like, again, it
Yeah.
was 2009, right? So I'm like
Yeah.
calling cabs, like trying to figure things out to move everyone. Got myself around the whole course, moved everyone. The event went off. Um, but from there, I guess I found that I had a bit of an act for like problem solving and maybe dispatching and that kind of thing. So from there, I started to build out what is now our command center and all of that emergency planning and um, those pieces that I have 20 people working with me on instead of just me on the sidewalk in downtown Toronto with,
Yeah.
a radio strapped to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. Like I think that, you probably have many stories like that of behind the scenes things that, you know, were, kind of crisis in the moment, but then most people in the race just ran the race and the race was good and they were happy. Like what are some things that runners don't really appreciate about race organizing that, that you'd want them to know, to understand like what, goes into it?
Yeah, sure. I think, I joke with my other race director friends, like, what's the most common thing people ask you? And we kind of chuckle. And it's basically people always make comments like, oh, that's a full-time job? You do that for a living?
Yeah.
And there's certainly people that have running events that they do from the side of their desk and have a few hundred people in, but at a size like a size and scope of our races, it is very much a full-time job. I think people are surprised to hear that I can work 100-hour work week just in lead up, right? That's not
Yeah.
a small amount of hours to be pulling in to make sure everything's going well and we're ready for race day. I think the complexity of everything. I know we've had people come and volunteered and just they're runners, right? And they're passionate about running. And so they're like, oh, I definitely want to organize road races. And then, we give them some role and they're like, oh, whoa, this is like a lot more than I thought was involved. So it's hard to pinpoint one thing, but I think open the curtain, have people see like a command center where I am on race day with police and video screen, like surveillance cameras and uh, TTC and transportation and EMS and medical and, 10 other dispatchers that all have different radio channels for different operations of the event from start line, finish line, Nathan Phillips Square, volunteers, like whatever it is. I think that would probably surprise a lot of people.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think I think when you do a good job at any event or anything, right, you just assume there's not a lot involved. But when things kind of go sideways, you get a better picture that there's a lot of complexity. So if the planning doesn't go well, you can really see how much planning maybe should go into something, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure. So how many, you talk about like your command post with 20 people, like how many employees, like paid people do you have for the Toronto Marathon? And then how many volunteers are also working?
Yeah, we have 3,000 volunteers that work that race. And actually, funny enough, my dad, back in the day when I was doing all the registration stuff and I took over the volunteer piece, he just made a blanket statement that he wanted 3,000 volunteers at the
Okay.
marathon. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, why do why do you want this number and blah, blah, blah. And at that point, it was phone calls, it was emails, like and it was groups that we knew, like high school groups and stuff. That's how we were getting our volunteers. So very inefficient. Anyway, so I took my registration background. I was like, if I have an event with 3,000 people and we're not expecting them to email me personally or phone me to sign
Mhm.
up for a water station job, why would we do that for volunteers? So
Mhm.
that's where all these volunteer registration platforms kind of came from.
Mhm.
But there wasn't anything really in Canada, so I had to go to the US and
Mhm.
get one that way. Um, anyway, so yeah, 3,000 volunteers. We still have the same numbers since maybe 2010, I think.
Okay.
Um, and then we have 600 paid event staff. So
Wow.
those are all the captains of the volunteers. So
Okay.
we put those extra layers in so you don't have a group of 50 high school students at a water station who don't know how to tap a hydrant or how to fill a
Yeah.
cup or
Sure.
how to mix noon into things. Like we've got captains that we're paying to
Mhm.
do that and to supervise the volunteers.
Mhm.
And then year round, we have 20 full-time employees
Yeah.
that work for Canada Running Series on the Toronto and Vancouver events.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
That
A
could
lot
be
of
a
people.
surprising thing, right?
Yeah.
For people to hear how many people it takes to, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I think people do have a sense that like, yes, it requires volunteers, but I think the number might be, surprising to people. Is it different for like a 10Ks, like the marathon because of how far it stretches in the city? Is that part of what makes it more?
You got it. Yeah. It's certainly the marathon distance and how many water stations we have to how many marshals, like
Mhm.
600 marshals on course, where like a 10K, depending on the route, especially an out and back route with 10K, like you might have like 60 marshals, right? Versus 600,
Mhm.
the way we have it. And because the marathon is a longer shift, we like very much need to ensure we have two marshals, like on each side of each road. So if one
Mhm.
needs to go to the bathroom, which
Mhm.
inevitably they do, there's always someone there.
Mhm.
So yeah, those volumes and the expo. So we have the 2-day expo
Mhm.
plus the 5K on Saturday, plus the marathon and the half on
Mhm.
Sunday.
Yeah, the expo must be like its own sort of event in itself. It's sort of like basically a trade show.
Yeah. Rachel and Brendan on our team organize that year round. So they have other responsibilities year round as well, but
Mhm.
they're focused on just the expo piece and that trade show and those booths and then programming on the stage and all that stuff.
Mhm. So you do a lot of work with CRS, I think, to connect races with the community, and probably that helps with volunteering as well. But I just think it's to also just to get it known. So what are some things that you're working on now, like in Toronto with the running community?
Yeah. I guess post-pandemic, we really doubled down on cheer and just having a lot of fun with the run crews and the local um, running groups in Toronto just to like liven up the route. So we had gone from like 12 kind of more like cover band,
Mm.
uh, cheer site type things to 20. I think we were 20-ish cheer sites in the first year, and now we're over 30
Mm.
across the route. And so that's just been a really fun thing to see come to life and really getting those run crew like they want to be out there either running or cheering themselves, right? So why
Mhm.
not give them a bit of an honorarium,
Mhm.
get them, they can get a DJ, they can use it however they see fit, but
Mhm.
everyone gets a sound system and an honorarium and
Mhm.
they can have at her. They just can't have confetti. That
Okay.
is allowed in the city of Toronto for our permitting.
Okay.
Just the mess of it all to clean up after, especially on a windy day.
Yeah.
It really blows. And on the lake shore, like it can go very, very far.
So did you learn that because you had confetti and then
The
it
city
was a mess?
basically, like, I don't think it was because of us, but the city banned it from all permitting. So I think they had had enough of probably events using confetti and
Yeah.
it blowing over. Yeah, don't blame them. We'd get street cleaners out,
Yeah.
but like, you've seen them, right? Unless
Yeah.
it's the actual vacuum packs that we tried to get, it just
Yeah.
kind of blows it around,
Yeah.
uh, probably making it worse.
Hmm.
But anyways, but yeah, so I think the cheer sites were something cool that we've been building on. But this year specifically, we started the women's training program
Hmm.
with on, and so that we actually started last year, but it was after our 2022 event. Our women's numbers in the marathon dropped.
Hmm.
Um, and I'd say significantly, but mostly because the numbers between men and women were already so far apart. So
Hmm.
pre-pandemic, we had 32% women and
Hmm.
68% men. And then when we came back from the pandemic in 2022, it had dropped to 28% women,
Hmm.
72. So it just like it was getting, the problem was getting bigger or whatever. The disparity there was getting bigger. So we sat down and tried to figure out what we could do as an event
Hmm.
to support women in their training and in the marathon and getting them to the start line.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, that took a few years of surveys and learnings and
Hmm.
getting feedback from folks and stuff. And I think this year it's working really well with there's like 2,500 women that are signed up for this training program. So it's a
Yeah.
free half marathon and marathon training program. And we partnered with Malt Marathon.
Yeah.
And so their coaches are like, we have a Facebook group and they're just on there,
Yeah.
like answering questions, supporting these women like from June to October's race day. And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see that. And so we're back up to that 68-32. So
Hmm.
we're at least back to pre-pandemic, but it will be interesting to see over the next few years if we can keep um, shortening that gap
Hmm.
for sure.
That's very interesting to me. What did you hear in the surveys? Like, I guess something to do with training support, but was there anything in the survey that you were kind of surprised by? I mean, being a woman who runs yourself, like you probably have your own experience of like why you would or wouldn't do something, but what did you see in the surveys?
Well, it was interesting and since the program kind of started talking to more women like in person and stuff, like we've kind of anecdotally joked about women wanting to make sure they do the training properly.
Hmm.
They're not willing to just like go and do a marathon without having spent the time to properly train. Again, very anecdotal, but
Right.
should they not be able to find the time, which I think
Hmm.
traditionally a lot of like household,
Yeah.
childcare, like those things fall on women. So like to carve out the amount of time required to train for a marathon
Hmm.
properly could be problematic or more challenging.
Yeah.
Um, I know personally that's been my biggest thing. Like,
Yeah.
and it's up until I had my kid, it was a work thing. I've focused I joked about 100-hour work week, but I'm putting a lot of time into work, so I never prioritized or carved out enough time to train for a marathon. So I like cobbled something together during the pandemic when I had more time.
Yeah.
And that's the only marathon I've ever done, right? The second we got put back to the crazy work schedule and having a baby, I
Hmm.
haven't I haven't
Yeah.
carved it.
No, that's interesting for sure. I think I think sometimes I'm as a also as a sports administrator, like I'm kind of reticent to attribute sort of like, male and female characteristics for things because like people are people and everybody's kind of got their own thing. But I think what you've hit on is accurate and I mean, and it's there in the stats. Like,
Yeah.
there must be something if there's that much of a disparity between men and women running in marathons. Is it the same in like in half marathon, 10K, 5K in your results? No, so it's really just marathon.
It's just marathon. So that's it. Like some races will see more women in the half than men, but it's usually
Mm,
about equal. And then 5K, no problem. There's way more women than men, and it's usually equal in the 10K distance. So it really is just the marathon.
mm,
And uh I think it was 2022, they took London marathon stats and it was the same. It was like 28.72, like it had dropped a
mm,
lot. Um, and they looked at age and it
mm,
was the men and women doing the marathon up until 29 was
mm.
the exact same. And then
Okay.
it right? So you think
Yeah.
again about life and, maybe it's family and stuff or aging parents or whatever it is that you're caring for, but
Mhm.
things certainly didn't change until 30
Mhm.
um, in
Yeah.
those times.
The
Yeah.
the point about the women wanting to do the proper training, I think it reminds me of like with respect to kind of HR and hiring or recruiting, like how women will see a job posting and they'll meet like 9 of the 10 requirements and they're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't apply, and men will
Yeah.
see 2 and they'll be like, oh, I can do that.
I can totally do those other 8, like no
Yeah,
big
yeah,
deal. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. It's a bit of that.
Yeah, very interesting mindset, right? And
Mhm.
again, speaking from my own experience, like I
Mhm.
have done a lot of half marathons I shouldn't have
Yeah.
um, without the proper training, but
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about that distance, and there's no
Mhm.
way I would touch a marathon unless I had done the proper training. So,
Yeah. Another thing that we did, just speaking of like my own experience in this, with a female mentorship program at Athletics Canada, and um, we, it was running for 3 or 4 years, and it was a mentorship program, but we focused on women, and so we always had a few men, and it was like, and we wanted to make it purely women, and so what I did last year was I actually individually emailed like 50 female coaches and said, you should do this. And we got enough people, no problem. And I wonder
amazing.
if like if you're doing anything like that, like all the women in your half marathon this year, like they
Yeah.
should get a message saying, hey, you've done a half. Are you ready for the marathon next year? Come join our training program. Like maybe like
Yeah.
that individual targeted recruitment could be
Yeah, well, I
really.
guess we the training program is for the half and the full, so that was
Mhm.
kind of our thought process. They have to start, right? You need to start somewhere, and
Yeah.
so getting them in the door there, they can see the marathoners training, right?
Yeah.
It's the same Facebook page, but there's more half marathoners in the program than marathoners right now, but there's still certainly a lot. So there's still that, I guess, to your point of just, yeah, seeing other people doing it and
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
getting
these things
motivated.
take time too. Like it's not going to
Yeah.
just change. So
That's it. Yeah.
yeah.
And we took a very like scaled approach like we do with anything new we're doing. So 2023 was a panel
Mhm.
and we brought some women together to talk about the challenges and had like an evening of that and did
Yeah.
another panel at the expo, and then the next year we actually had the training program, but we didn't have mile to marathon involved. So we had just like a PDF,
Mhm.
training program, but it wasn't like layered enough with like beginner intermediate levels. So
Mhm.
that's, then here we are this year and
Mhm.
building from it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff. So it's good to hear the behind the scenes of that. So another thing that I think CRS does so well is supporting elite runners too. Like you do such a great job with the community mass participation, and sometimes people might think that's sort of at odds with the elites, but it's also the Toronto Marathon is also like the elite destination for marathons in Canada, and it's probably one of the best ones in North America too. So how do you make that work?
Yeah, I guess again, going back to my dad and where he started with everything, he always joked, he's like, I'm a runner. What is it? A runner in business, not a business person into running. So he was always right, always so passionate. Like the running part was always first. And our like mission was to build community through running, and that community was made up of professional athletes, charity participants, healthy lifestyle. So we never wanted to focus just on one group, right? Our community is broader than that, and so it was always important to try to find that balance, which is tricky, right? Like when you're looking at that competitive athlete piece, there's a lot of work and finance and stuff that goes into that piece, and it's for 100 athletes, where we have 31,000 other participants that we also need to make sure that we're providing a really great experience for. So I think we found a good way, a good balance. We have the right people in the right roles,
Mhm.
um, doing that work and making sure that each piece of our community is really showing up on race day and getting the experience that they're looking for, if that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good it's yeah, I've never thought that that the different parts of the community like that were mutually exclusive. Like I think that
Yeah.
that's the great thing about running is that everybody's running together. Like if you're
Yeah.
playing like beer league hockey, like you don't get to
Yeah.
play with Connor McDavid. Like it's not,
No,
you know.
exactly. It's the only sport that I can think of that you're lining up with, Olympians. Like you're
Mhm.
at the same start line, right?
Mhm.
So it is pretty unique. And I do have to say, like, there have been races like out and backs where I like cheer on,
Mhm.
whoever it might be, a Tasha Wodak, and she's like, thank you, like they're, even
Yeah.
though they're not reacting to every cheer site, like they need that bump and that
Yeah.
energy and
Oh,
that
for sure.
experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what's your favorite part of race day?
That is a good question.
The
Um,
nap at the end.
right. The really, really long nap. I feel like an area that I like can't go to because it's like too emotional is the finish line. Like
Okay.
I just like seeing people finish and seeing that look on their face when they've
Mhm.
accomplished something. Like
Mhm.
there aren't a big enough pair of sunglasses to like hide my feelings there. But it is trying to be present because again, with all those things that are happening, you can get really lost and
Mhm.
focus on things maybe that like are stressing you out or whatever and not seeing that bigger picture.
Mhm.
So the finish line is a really special place to be to really like bring perspective to what you're doing and
Mhm.
like how meaningful that work and that event is to so many people
Mhm.
um, in many different ways. I think back to the customer service days when I was answering phone calls and whatever,
Mhm.
and I answered a phone call from a woman who had just lost her husband,
Mhm.
and she had joined a running room clinic, and she wasn't sure if she could finish our marathon in the time limit.
Mhm.
And so she was just, what is it? She wanted to know what it would look like if she couldn't finish it in 6 hours. And I
Mhm.
said, well, we keep the finish line open, but we have to reopen the roads because of our permit, like on the course. So it'll look like this, this road will open at this time. So if you
Mhm.
don't get here, you'll be on the sidewalk, but you can
Okay.
keep going on the side, da,
Yeah.
da, da, da. And so I remember she'd call me and she called me like, every few weeks to let me know about her training. She's like, okay, I think I've got it down,
Yeah.
15 minutes, 20 minutes
Yeah.
faster. Like, based on this. And so on race day, I went with a couple of our staff to the finish line with her, the medals to give her and all of her family,
Mhm.
like emotional, walked up Bay Street with her. And so that was really, see, I can't be at finish lines.
That's great.
It was a really cool thing to see her finish that up. And it was after the time limit, but she had certainly
Mhm.
cut it back from where she had started
Yeah.
and do.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good. Well,
special. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good reason to do all the things that you do to make that happen for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so what's the biggest mistake that you've made, and what did you learn from it?
Um, Interesting. So many mistakes over the years. I've learned lots. I think the hardest event I ever had, um, I was new into some of my role in 2016 for the marathon and kind of maybe a thing that um, I didn't even think possible, but basically without going too long into it, we didn't have enough police officers in positions
Hmm.
along the route. And so I had basically been told of this the Friday night
Hmm.
of the marathon weekend on the Sunday. And I didn't even, this had never been an issue in the past.
Hmm.
We have a traffic plan, we get a permit, we give them lots and lots of money for the officers they deem necessary.
Yeah.
But the way that the system works is it is voluntary. They have to choose a position. So
Hmm.
it's not part of their day-to-day responsibilities. So basically, that morning, race morning, we had called a lot of people in, and it was the most stressful experience of my life. I to this point, and just trying to figure out how to secure the route and get enough officers in positions that weren't already assigned
Hmm.
that morning. So at 6 a.m., our incident commander wanted to call the race and
Hmm.
cancel it.
Hmm.
So I had a firm word with him and like he stood up, I stood up in our command center. Oh yeah. And I was like, you sit back down. We're gonna work together on this. I will not start the race unless it's safe, but let's
Yeah.
try to figure this out. And we got on-duty officers, we got a lot of resources pulled through
Hmm.
the entire city. And we focused on the first part of the course and secured that with 3 minutes to go.
Ooh.
So I would have started working on at 3:30 in the morning, right? So I
Yeah.
went 3:30 to 8:45 and we only got it by 3 minutes.
Hmm.
So that was just the intensity we were working at and then had to start working on the east, like then
Mhm.
moving over, being like, okay, there's a hole, let's fill it. So it was, a 15-hour straight mission to
Mhm.
make that event happen. And so from that, I learned that I needed to be more part of the planning and understand where they were at with position. Like things have changed since then. So there was
Mhm.
a lot of learnings around how the officers sign up for positions and how I
Mhm.
can be more prepared. And thankfully now they fill really, really easily. So it's actually not a stressor of mine. But it used to be a large part of my job that I think, again, people wouldn't think I was
Mhm.
spending as much time um, just making sure that we had enough people in those
Mhm.
positions.
And like, I mean, okay, so here's from a very naive perspective of someone who's like running along the course, like most of the time you see the police officers and they're kind of standing there and like waving at you. So like what's the difference in like maybe spreading them out or something like that? Like wh
Mhm.
why why would you need to cancel? Like what I guess what's the threshold for canceling something like that with like if you have like you're missing like two officers or like how does it work
We're
exactly with
missing
the
a
police?
lot. So that
Yeah.
was the problem. So we needed 200 and we had 95 type of
Okay.
deal. So there's like, half the field was missing.
Mhm.
And that 200 gets scaled. So you can imagine how many intersections in the city of Toronto and downtown Toronto there are for
Right.
42 kilometers. So that 200 number already gets scaled down to major intersections with lights
Yeah.
and more complex. And
Because
so
the,
we
the course is not necessarily closing off those intersections.
It is, but you would think people would be
Right.
respectful of that.
Yeah.
They are not, however. So,
Okay.
like that day, I was getting radio calls from people being like, there's a car whipping across Lakeshore. We
Okay.
don't know where it came from. So, a car had moved a barricade because a cop wasn't standing in front of that
Uh,
barricade. And
okay.
right. So, these really unsafe things where people aren't intending to be unsafe, but they don't understand why the road is closed and they don't care. So, they
Mhm.
whip through there. And we've got a bunch of volunteers trying to set up a water station
Right.
that route, right? So
Yeah.
that's yeah. So
Hmm.
again, like the learnings there, and it is an Ontario Traffic Act thing that like police officers have to manage signalized intersections. So there's
Hmm.
limitations that we have in that respect as well. But in other areas, we've added security guards
Hmm.
that can just stand in front of a barricade, make sure no one moves the barricade.
Hmm.
And that all came from that year. I learned
Yeah.
lots of security guards, lots of marshals,
Yeah.
and police are in those key spots, but we fill them no problem now. So that's also helpful. Yeah.
That's good.
But that's only
Yeah.
been,
It's you have it's hard to anticipate what kind of stupid things people will do, I guess.
yeah, we've again, yeah, I won't even get into it. Yeah.
Do you have some fun stories of stupid things people
Uh,
have done that you can share?
well, so we were doing our emergency tabletop exercises yesterday. Our medical director, me, and our staff, plus our title sponsor TCS. So going through various scenarios that could happen on race day. And as an icebreaker to get us going, our medical director asked us for the funniest moment
Mhm.
we've ever experienced on race day. And I think like 4 out of the 20-ish of us all had the same one. And it was 2021. We came back from the pandemic and we were the first race to come back and we had changed the marathon to a 10K
Mhm.
in October and it was on the lake shore. And the things we had to do, we had to obey the like wedding rules for social distancing at a road
Okay.
race. I don't know if you remember that, but
Mhm.
it was 6 feet apart. We could only send 100 people at a time.
Mhm.
And so we had all these staging areas. So we had 5 groups of 100 and we had
Mhm.
a total of 5,000 people that we could accept in the race.
Okay.
And so one of the staging areas, we had cones all 6 feet apart that people
Yeah.
had to stand at.
Yeah.
So at one point, my lovely friend Rachel Monday from the Manitoba Marathon, so a
Mhm.
lot of race directors came to help us as, first race back, etc. And so she's there. And what does she find on one of the cones, John? What do you think you could possibly find on a cone?
I'm gonna guess someone's underwear.
No, someone had pooped
Oh no.
while standing in an open field. And so she's convinced they like shook it out of their shorts. Anyway, so she had to scoop up like full human poop from a cone in a staging area at the start line.
My goodness. Well, if you gotta go, you gotta go, I guess.
Right? I guess.
Uh, that's pretty
I don't
wild.
know.
I wonder if that was the one that I didn't race because I was sick. Because
Maybe.
it was
It was
fall
a
and I came
10K
to Toronto.
championship too. Like we
Hmm?
were hosting the 10K championship
Well,
that
I mean
year
that wouldn't have been
with
I wouldn't have
Ottawa.
been in the championship of anything, but um yeah, because I remember like signing up. I was gonna do 10K, and then I came and I was just like kind
Yeah.
of sick, and I was like, I could run this race, but then I'm just gonna be sick, like worse. And I was just like, no. And so I mean, it was sort of weird because the whole family came for Toronto to Toronto for this. I think we had my sister's birthday is always like on that weekend too, so a good reason. But
There was a good reason to come other than the race, but
yeah.
yeah.
And we were staying in this, like, at like Gerard and Young, there's like a giant skyscraper thing. And so we were
Chelsea.
staying, hmm?
Chelsea Hotel? The
No, not
Chelsea.
across from that. It's like a
Okay.
big apartment building. And
Okay.
we were staying in an Airbnb there, and it was pretty sketchy. And they had like these windows that were like close to the floor, and they just opened. And we had Remy was like pretty small, and Miriam was like not having it. Like it was like we like put like furniture up against the window and stuff because
I
it was,
can't even imagine. Yeah.
yeah, it was very high. I've never stayed that high in my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Um, if you could change one thing about race organizing or road races, what would it be?
I think my dream, I have a couple dreams. Um, so I tell the team this all the time, but like years ago, I got off at the airport in New York, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like Tuesday or Wednesday of race week for New York City Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I was in some rec clothes or what, like in some athleisure, like I don't know what I was wearing, but I wasn't like, full race kitted out or
Yeah.
something silly. But I got in a taxi and he's like, "Oh, are you here for New York City Marathon?" And I was like, what? I'm like, that is incredible. That Tuesday of race week, he just assumes that I'm here for the marathon on Sunday because everyone's there, right? Like the
Yeah.
whole city embraces it. And so, like, I have this dream that, like, Toronto focuses a little bit less on road closures and that impact and more on, like, the actual race and coming out, either
Mm,
cheering, running, and it being this, like, spectacular party and parade that everyone, you hear about London and New York and
mm,
Chicago, like, all the majors. Like that is my dream that like someday very soon the city really embraces it.
yeah.
Um, becomes the celebration it should be, versus the focus on road closures.
Mm.
And then
In
the
those other cities, like, is the city very much on board? Like, almost like, kind of the tourism part of the city is like pushing through
yeah,
and stuff like this.
yeah, I think it probably starts with that, right? Like when the city's really pumped, like the city bureaucrat, like the permitting people
Yeah.
are on board, it like kind of transfers down, trickles down to everybody else. And they're like, oh, okay, if these guys are excited about it and they're giving them, all these things,
Mm,
like we should be excited about it.
mm,
I do feel, Toronto obviously has a lot of traffic and issues and all these things. And so that it seems to be a cultural focused thing that like,
but New
you know,
York doesn't have traffic, so you know.
right. Exactly. So exactly.
London, nah, no traffic there.
Right. No traffic. And I do think if we had a easier transit system like New York and London, it
Hmm.
would also make things better for everyone else that day. Like the fact that we don't have the same level of transit options
Hmm.
uh, underground. So if we start closing all the roads above ground, and then nobody has any, like, there's no way to get around really.
Plus, is the subway still not open until 9 on Sundays?
8 a.m. That's my
8.
other dream. I have
Yeah.
been fighting for yeah, many, many years. We just got a no again for a 6 a.m. opening on
Okay.
race day. So we have to start the race at 8 a.m. The
Hmm.
TT is not open till 8 a.m.
Yeah.
But
Gotta take the
every other,
vomit comet.
what's that?
You gotta take the vomit comet.
Exactly. But you can't get there because we closed Bloor Street, Young
Hmm.
Street, all of these streets for the race
Hmm.
route. So
No.
we're trying to find ways to get buses and stuff through, but obviously underground train would be a lot easier because we have
Yeah.
all the subway stations is where the
Yeah.
start and the finish
I
are.
mean, just it must be at this point like a union thing.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Because like, yeah,
I'm like,
anyway.
what can I say here?
Yeah, no, no worries. Yeah, because I mean, I think it used to be like, because everyone had to go to church. So
Got it. So a lot has changed since
yeah,
then.
yeah.
And, there's a lot of people working shift work and different hours, like,
Mhm.
and working on Sundays, right? And have to
Mhm.
get to work. And yeah, it
Yeah.
would be lovely if our city operated. Montreal, I would have no trouble getting to
Mhm.
our start line at 5 in the morning,
Mhm.
like over to Parc Jean Drapeau.
Mhm.
Like the subway's running, I think the same time every day. Is that not right? Like it opens.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yes.
I've never had an issue with the subway not being open, except for like if I'm trying to go somewhere really early. But yeah.
Yeah. But for race day for me, I always could do it. Like I could get to work that. Like it was operating early enough in the morning on Sunday
Mhm.
before 6 a.m. if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Montreal, but not Toronto.
Yeah. Okay. So last question about your running. Like, how do you fit your running into all this? You mentioned, pre Archie was like, or the work was sort of the limiting factor. Now
Yeah.
you have work and you have little boy. So how
Yeah.
are you running much? How's that going?
Good question. I think it's interesting. So I'm also single with the baby. So like, I can't like pass him off to a partner or something and like go out for a run.
Mhm.
It becomes like more logistical. So I feel like
Mhm.
good and bad, like what I've been focused on is just shorter stuff. Like I've been just going out for a 5K run and I do that with the baby jogger with him. But
Yeah.
if like air quality wasn't good in the summer, like I wouldn't bring him out, right? So there's like some limitations, like, or if it was like nap time figuring that out if I couldn't
Mhm.
like squeeze it in early enough when it was cool enough and his naps got in the way like
Does he like
but
it in the jogger?
he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like he at the beginning when he was a bit younger he'd fall asleep,
Mm.
which also kind of messed with nap time because like
Yeah.
half an hour was not enough time
Yeah.
to be out. Like I should have been going for longer runs
Yeah. You
to
just have to keep
keep him up.
going until he wakes up.
Yeah,
But then you got other
exactly.
things you want to do while he's sleeping. So
I know. There's all the bottle washing, all the laundry, like all the yeah.
yeah.
Um, but I feel like I'm making it more of a priority than before. Like I think
Mm.
because I have to like fit what I can into every single segment. Like that's the biggest thing I've noticed since having him.
Mhm.
Like I'm more efficient
Mm.
with my time, or I try to use as much of my time as I can as possible. Um, so it's been nice, and I made a goal of doing 12 5K races with Archie before he's a year old.
Okay.
Uh, so we've done 7 so
Yeah.
far. So I gotta squeeze a few in before December 3rd, but we're signed up for one, two, I think 3 more. So I just have to find 2 more,
It's an aggressive goal.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's been awake for all of the races.
Okay.
For the most, no, February he was asleep.
Right.
Anyways, I
Well,
actually started.
I mean, you're training the future national director of race,
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
So
Whatever it is. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Long.
thank you for fitting this in. You're
Thanks for having me.
such a fantastic person and doing so many good things. So it's really great. I hope that all the people that all the I don't know dozens or so of people that listen to this podcast will appreciate what you have to say and think of you and all the other race organizers next time they're doing a race.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big team behind you when you line up to that start line, even if you don't see them
Cool. All
all
right.
cheering you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.